North Carolina, Mr. Bishop, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, I see an irony in your testimony in that you're here as a representative of a tech industry that has that through anti-competitive structure and practices is damaging a free press, but you embrace the idea of granting a countervailing license to engage in anti-competitive activity to the media to address that. Isn't the answer to correct the failure of antitrust law vis-a-vis big tech rather than to inculcate anti-competitive behavior in yet another industry?
Well, I would say two things. First, I don't think that thinking about one thing is meant to suggest that one should exclude other things. And most problems require more than one solution, and I don't think this is an exception. But I would just go back to basics. Why did Congress pass the Clayton Act and the FTC Act in the first place? To encourage competition, to protect competition. And there are times, especially when laws are decades or a century or older, that they have unintended consequences. And there is an unintended consequence, and now you can redress this in a very
well. Thank you, Mr. Smith. That's exactly what I'm concerned about. So let me go to Mr. Greenwald and ask you. The chairman said in response to your comments, Mr. Greenwald, that we're going to both attack the anti-competitive practices of big tech and give an antitrust exemption to media content producers. And wouldn't it be preferable only to do that, which will improve the competitive environment and forbear from regulation that might have unintended consequences that would concentrate power or permit any competitive activity by particularly big media outlets?
I think it's exactly correct. One of the reasons why I was so excited about the report issued by the subcommittee in October was because it was designed to finally address the problem that is a serious menace for the health of our democracy, which is anti-competitive behavior on the part of one industry. And so to have the solution be to empower another industry that has immense problems of its own and that often works hand in hand with that tech industry, be able to replicate those problems makes little sense to me, especially because the chairman said, and he's right in theory, that, well, if we do this, it doesn't preclude us from then doing this broader agenda. But the political reality is that if you start giving the most powerful industries like the media a reason to stop caring about big tech monopoly because now they have what they want, which is license to do the same thing, you're going to be diluting political support for these broader solutions.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Shavern, quickly, if small and diverse outlets are those that are most in need of protection, why grant an antitrust exemption to the New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News?
Well, I fundamentally, the larger outlets already have the capacity and some degree of leverage to get their own deals and arrangements. And again, we saw with News Corp, by the way, people talk about News Corp a lot. News Corp currently has a global deal with Google. This bill is not about News Corp first and foremost. It is, but the whole industry itself, from the largest to the smallest, but particularly the smallest, are in a deeply subservient relationship to two companies that have been allowed to grow and dominate their spaces with a completely hands-off approach from the government for too long. And we need an answer now.
Yeah, I get your point, and I think they're picking out the right answer is what we need to be doing. Mr. Travis, finally to you. Mr. Raskin, in his question, suggested that sort of criticism and condemnation is the same as cancel culture, and I value robust and unlimited criticism, like North Carolina Republican Party's censure of Senator Burr for his impeachment vote, for the revulsion at Kathy Griffin's holding aloft the apparently severed and bloody head of the sitting president. But isn't cancellation something different, where you destroy somebody's career, position, or livelihood in retaliation for a particular view?
Yes, I think it's a well-put question. To me, cancel culture is the difference between I disagree with you because, and I disagree with you and you don't have the right to make a living because of your opinion. Cancel culture takes it beyond the debate and goes to actually trying to cut someone out of the debate completely, argue about ideas, argue about decisions. Don't, in my opinion, take the next step and say, and your position invalidates you from being able to be involved in the conversation at all.
Thank you, Mr. Travis. Yield to Mr. Issa.
I thank the gentleman, but I don't think it'll be sufficient for the chairman. I appreciate it. Yield back.
Thanks, sir. Yield my time.
The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Demings, for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and to the ranking member as well for this very important